Welcome back to Nietzsche in Focus. Today, we're diving into one of the most beautiful and enigmatic chapters of Zarathustra, Noontide.
This is a really pivotal moment in the book, isn't it? It feels like a turning point. Where does this chapter find Zarathustra?
He's completely alone, running through the mountains, and he's actually enjoying his solitude, thinking about good things.
So he's in a positive, reflective state of mind.
Exactly. And the scene is set very precisely. It's noontide, when the sun is directly over his head. This timing is incredibly symbolic in Nietzsche's work.
Ah, the high noon, the moment of the shortest shadow, representing the overcoming of duality.
Precisely. He then comes across an old, gnarled tree completely wrapped in a grapevine, which is heavy with ripe, yellow grapes.
It sounds like a perfect, almost mythical image, a symbol of life and abundance.
It is. And naturally, feeling a little thirsty from his wandering, his first impulse is to reach for the grapes.
Which makes perfect sense. He's a wanderer in the sun, he's thirsty.
But then another stronger desire takes over. Instead of quenching his thirst, he feels an overwhelming urge to simply lie down by the tree and sleep.
That's interesting. He prioritizes rest over a basic physical need. Why?
The text gives us a classic Zarathustrian proverb. One thing is more necessary than the other.
So in this moment, sleep and the experience it promises are more necessary to his soul than water is to his body.
That's the perfect way to put it. He lies down in the grass and immediately forgets his thirst and falls asleep.
But the text says his eyes remain open, right? That's a strange detail.
It is. It suggests this isn't ordinary sleep. His body is at rest, but his consciousness, his soul, is wide awake and observing. He's admiring the tree and the vine.
And then he begins this incredible internal monologue, talking to his own heart. He starts by asking, "Hath not the world now become perfect?"
Yes, this is the entry point into the core experience. In this state, perfection is achieved. He then describes sleep itself.
He calls it a delicate wind that dances upon him, feather-light. It's such a gentle image.
It's beautiful. He says sleep doesn't close his eyes, but leaves his soul awake. It persuades and constrains him, causing his soul to stretch itself out.
What does he mean by his soul stretching out and becoming long and weary? It sounds almost like a painful experience.
It's more of a profound exhaustion, but not a negative one. He wonders if it's like a seventh-day evening arriving at noon, a moment of final rest arriving prematurely.
And he says this is because his soul has wandered too long, blissfully, among good and ripe things. Can you have too much of a good thing?
In Nietzsche's view, yes. This leads to what he calls a golden sadness that oppresseth the soul. It's the melancholy that comes from profound fulfillment.
So it's the feeling after the peak experience, where everything else seems to pale in comparison.
Exactly. He then uses a powerful analogy to explain this state.
The ship, right? He compares his soul to a weary ship.
Yes, a ship that's finally reached the calmest, safest cove after long, uncertain voyages. It's tired and ready to dock.
So the earth becomes this faithful, solid ground after the chaotic sea of life and thought.
And the connection is so gentle. He says it's bound to the shore with threads as light as a spider's web. No strong ropes are needed.
The trust is so complete that the slightest connection is enough to hold it securely. That's a beautiful metaphor for peace.
It truly is. This feeling of security and peace is what he calls happiness. He then asks his soul if it wants to sing.
But he immediately tells it to be quiet. Hush, the world is perfect. Why the contradiction?
Because this is a secret, solemn hour. It's a moment of such profound stillness that even a song would disrupt its perfection. The noontide itself is personified as sleeping.
So any action, even a joyful one like singing, would be a disturbance. The goal is pure being, not doing.
You've got it. And this leads him to a major revelation about happiness itself.
He mentions something he used to say. For happiness, how little sufficeth for happiness. But now he calls that a blasphemy. Why?
Because his old way of thinking was wise, but incomplete. He says wise fools speak better. His new insight is more profound.
And what is that new insight?
It's that the best happiness is made up of the least things, the gentlest, the lightest things.
Can you give some examples from the text?
He lists a lizard's rustling, a breath, a whisk, an eye glance. It's about a radical sensitivity to the most subtle aspects of existence.
So it's not just about needing little, but about finding the greatest joy in the smallest, most fleeting moments.
Exactly. And right at this peak of understanding, something happens. The experience intensifies.
He says he feels a sting to the heart, and he asks if he has fallen into the well of eternity.
This is the climax of the dream. The well of eternity is a metaphor for a moment of timeless insight, a direct experience of what Nietzsche would call eternal recurrence.
A moment where all of time is present and you feel connected to everything.
Yes, a moment so perfect and round and ripe that he visualizes it as a golden round ring that he feels compelled to chase.
And then he just trails off and realizes he's asleep.
He does. He stretches and a part of him says, "Up, thou noontide sleeper." He has this funny internal argument.
He scolds himself for sleep, saying he slept for a half eternity.
Right, but his soul argues back, wanting to stay in that perfect moment. It says, "Leave me alone, hush, hath not the world just now become perfect?"
It's like the snooze button on an alarm clock for an existential epiphany.
That's a great way to put it. He tries to get up again, calling his soul a sluggard, but then a sunbeam hits his face.
And this seems to finally wake him for good.
It does. He sits up and he speaks directly to the sun, or heaven above, which he now identifies as the well of eternity and the joyous, awful noontide abyss.
He asks it, "When wilt thou drink my soul back into thee?"
What does he mean by that? It's an expression of desire for complete union with this eternal moment, to be fully absorbed by this profound reality he has just touched.
It's a moment of total surrender and acceptance. So what happens next? Does he go back to sleep?
No, he gets up from his spot by the tree, and here comes the brilliant punchline of the entire chapter.
Let me guess. He looks up and the sun is still directly overhead. He hadn't slept for a half eternity at all, had he? He was asleep for maybe a few minutes at most.